This video will be showing you how to display distributions graphically on Casio calculators. So finally all my Casio users get a little love here. So this is the version that the school uses of the Casio calculators. Yours may be a little bit different, but the buttons are all pretty much the same. It just looks a little different. So you got your main menu. Here's the data. I'm going to use the same data so you can see how it relates. This is the AP student pulse rates. Here's all the numbers. The good news with the calculator is they don't have to be in order. The calculator will actually put them in order for you, but we'll deal with that later. So the first thing you need to do is you need to get into your stat world. I like to call it stat world. It's right here. So you're going to go over, and then you're going to hit enter. And this is going to enter you into what I like to call stat world. This is where you're going to be doing all of your calculations, typing all your numbers, etc. So the first thing you're going to do is you may have some numbers here. If you have random numbers, you can just over type, or you can delete it. So let's say I had some numbers here. I would just go up and hit delete. Nope. I think you have to delete them one at a time. Okay, there may be a faster way. We'll work on that. But if not, just press the delete key. So I'm going to enter these numbers one at a time. 42, 62, 65, hitting enter after each one. 68. Okay, so after I'm done typing those in, the numbers on the side correspond to what cell it is. So I can see here that I've got 35. I always take a quick second to go back and check, make sure I've got all the correct numbers. So I do. So now I'm going to create a histogram. So basically, if you remember from the other video, we took the data, we calculated the width, we calculated the intervals, we figured out how many were in each interval, and then we made a histogram. So I'm basically going to make that same histogram using the calculator. So you see your options down here. You've got graph, calc test. We're going to end up using all this stuff, but for right now we're just looking at graph, F1. Now you have 3 graph options. They're not set up right now, so I'm going to go over here to settings, F6. And again, I can go between graph 1, graph 2, graph 3, and set them up. I'm going to set up graph 1, so make sure that this says graph 1. Graph type, I don't want any of these, so I hit the more button, F6, and right here we've got histogram. So I'm going to hit F1. That's going to change it to a histogram. Now XList is the list that I type the numbers into. If you see here, you've got at least 4 lists. I believe it goes up to 6, 7, 8. Okay, so it keeps going. Sometimes it's convenient to have more than one list going at once, but I type my numbers in list 1. I'm in settings. I changed this to a histogram, which was on the more menu. XList was 1, frequency, good. And then I hit exit. Now, to show the histogram, I'm going to hit graph 1. Now, it's going to come up with a histogram settings. Start and width. Well, start is the lowest number. If we looked over here, I had the lowest number is 42. It's generally going to give you the lowest number as a start point. Now, the width. The width, I can just start really picking numbers and see which one works. But I've already done the math to figure out exactly what I wanted. And if you remember from the other video, we had a width of 7. Each one of these had a width of 7. So I'm going to do that so that it matches the one that we've already graphed. So I'm going to change this to 7. I hit enter. I hit enter again, and voila. We have this histogram that's the exact same as this histogram. Now, if I hit trace, trace is right here. It's above, so I hit shift first, shift, trace, and what it does, puts a little cursor over there. It says X is 42 and F is 4. F is the frequency. Look, 42, frequency of 4. Now, to get the left end point here, I got to go to the next bar. The next bar started at 49. Boom, frequency of 5. The next bar started at 56, frequency of 9, and so on and so on and so on. So there's my histogram. Now, I will show you how to do the same thing with a box plot. So here is our box plot. We went through all this work to get the 5-number summary and then scaled it and graphed it. Again, calculator is going to do it in about 2 seconds. So I'm going to hit exit. Exit's going to take me back to my stat world where all my lists are. If I hit graph 1 again, it will go back to creating a histogram. I want to change what type of graph 1 is. So I'm going to go to settings, stat graph 1, graph type. I don't want a histogram anymore. So I'm going to change this more. I'm going to go, I want a box plot, F2. Again, it's going to give me list 1, frequency, and then it's going to ask about outliers. For right now, you're going to leave those off. Eventually, we'll talk about that, and you will turn those on. But for right now, we're going to leave it off. After we've changed the settings for stat graph 1, we hit exit, and then graph 1, and voila, there is my box plot. Now, problem with this is right now, I can't really tell what those numbers are. So I'm going to do the same thing. Here's trace, shift, trace, puts the little cursor on the min, 42. What do you know? Over. Q1, 54. What do you know? Median, 62. And on and on and on. So that calculator does what we did. We took 5 minutes to do. It does it in about 5 seconds. So the one last thing I will show you is how to do both simultaneously. So I exited out. I'm back to my stat world. Now I'm going to need to have 2 graphs. My graph 1, whoops, exit, settings. You'll have to excuse me. I'm not as much of a pro with the Casio yet. So my stat graph 1 is a box plot with list 1. I go up to graph 1. I'm going to change my graph 2 and go down and make it over more a histogram. So I have 1 box plot, 1 histogram. List 1 still. Okay, I've changed my settings. Exit. Now here it says select F4. Draw on will obviously draw it. Draw off will not. So I'm going to go down to graph 2 and turn it on and draw. I'm going to change this to 7 again. And there I have my graphs. Now, they're kind of hard to read when they overlap. So right here, you can change your window. Shift F3. And X min, X max is the width from left to right, the lowest number, the highest number. Y min, Y max. I'm going to change my Y max. That's the height of the graph. I'm going to make that maybe 20. And then hit exit. Whoops. Well, that didn't work, so we will work on that in class. Enjoy your Casio calculators.